Once, on this land where the Atlantic sighs over broken shells and the lagoon hums beneath silent bridges, there was no traffic, no noise, no skyscrapers, only Earth and those who first listened to her. Welcome to Voices of the Forgotten, where Africa's lost stories, stolen legacies, and ancient spirits rise again. Before Lagos became the sprawling beast that never sleeps, when its name still echoed as echo, there lived a people who planted their feet in sand and spirit. They were called the Awori, and they were here before the ships, before the guns, before the lie that Lagos was no one's land. Let me take you back, not to the Lagos of yellow buses and soaring markets, but to the very beginning, to a boy on a raft, a prince, exiled, drifting. His name was Olofin. Centuries ago, in the ancient Yoruba kingdom of Ile-Ife, a crown did not simply choose a head, it burned for it. Olofin, son of royalty, felt that burn long before his father died. His stepbrothers had already begun sharpening their knives the day he was born. And so Olofin's mother, guided by whispers of the Ifa, placed her son on a wooden raft carved by the village blacksmith, blessed, they say, with white sand and bitter kola. She watched as the current of the Ogun River carried the boy away. She whispered, "Follow the white sand until the spirit says stop." The raft floated for days, down streams that hissed secrets, through creeks where crocodiles guarded sacred groves, until finally the raft stopped, right at the mouth of a lagoon where the sun kissed thick mangroves and the air tasted different. There, a turtle crawled onto the shore beside the raft and stopped. That was the sign. Olofin and the few men and women who followed him stepped onto the shore. This place, the Ifa had said, was Echo, meaning camp or war camp, a place to settle, to grow, and to defend. They cleared space among the mangroves, built with palm fronds and songs, spoke their tongue and traced their gods into the sand. They would become known as the Awori, speakers of a dialect older than time, one of the earliest subgroups of the Yoruba people. They didn't find the land empty, no. Others lived nearby, hunters, fishermen. They exchanged kola, age, and wives. But the land they stepped on had a soul, and it knew their names. The Awori weren't just settlers, they were keepers. They didn't see Lagos as a territory to be owned, but as a spirit to be honored. Every year, during the Oshun festival, they would offer white doves at the water's edge. Every child's naming ceremony began with sand from the lagoon, mixed with rainwater placed on their tongue. Because Echo was more than land, it was prophecy. The gods whispered once, "Protect it, or others will seek it." Some decades later, another figure appeared. Not a stranger, a cousin. Another exile from the great dynasty of Oyo, a man named Ashipa. He came with fewer words and more warriors. His exile wasn't peaceful. He was sent to retrieve, to secure, to establish trade for the rising empire of Benin, who eyed the coastal riches of the Awori land. But when Ashipa arrived and saw what Olofin built, he paused. He didn't conquer, he negotiated. Olofin gave Ashipa his daughter in marriage. Ashipa respected the gods of the land, and so a delicate balance of power began.
The kingdom of Benin would send him backing, yes, gave him the title of Oloye and the duty to watch the coast. But the land still answered to the Awori priestly lines. The Idejo chiefs, descendants of the original Awori settlers, remained the spiritual landlords of Lagos. Power was not conquered, it was balanced. From the faraway coasts of Portugal and later Britain came men whose footsteps killed grass. They saw the waters, deep and winding, perfect for anchoring ships. They saw the people, rich in culture but divided by new alliances. And they saw something else: palm oil, ivory, bodies. By 1861, the British declared Lagos a crown colony, absorbing it into their web of empire. But in the documents they wrote, in the treaties they interpreted with the tip of a gun, they downplayed the voices of the Awori, of the Idejo, of the early settlers. To them, Lagos was now neutral territory, a no-man's land. That phrase was not born in truth, it was born in policy, a way to erase land rights, spiritual rights, ancestral memories, so they could build railways, ports, and colonial courts without barrier. But how can a land with gods be no man's land? Hidden claims beneath concrete. Even today in Lagos Island, beneath Broad Street, under banks and cathedrals, lie the original shrines, buried but not silenced. Descendants of the Idejo can still trace their family land to stretches that modern lawyers dare not include on maps, because to acknowledge them is to admit a theft. The lie of no man's land is convenient, you see. It allows power to move unchecked. But the names they remember: Idumota, Ido, Oko Awo, Ibute Meta. These are not colonial creations. These are Awori and Yoruba names spoken long before the world knew gold could be shipped. In the 20th century, Lagos grew fast, too fast. Concrete over trees, English over Yoruba, money over memory. And with growth came immigration. Tens of thousands poured in from the east, north, the delta. They brought skills, labor, brilliance. They shaped Lagos, yes, but with every new voice, the old one faded. Suddenly, you would hear someone say, "Lagos belongs to no one, it belongs to all of us." A statement soaked in optimism, but reeking of forgetfulness. Because even if many now share in her blessing, Lagos was not born without parents. To say no man's land is to tell Olofin he never landed, to tell Ashipa his marriage meant nothing, to silence the gods in the lagoon. The forgotten wealth of Nigeria. Let's step back for a moment. Nigeria is not a country of accidents. Before the British drew lines, we had lines of our own. Lines of Oyo thunder, Bini bronze, Kainam-born scrolls, NCBD codes etched into walls. We had empires that traded with the Arabs and the Chinese before Europe ever knew Africa had a name. And Lagos was the gate. It watched both the sea and the land. It was the meeting point between trade and tradition.
There's forgotten wealth buried beneath Nigeria's cities. I'm not talking about oil. I'm talking about memory. Rich, vast, purposeful, but suppressed. Because those who loot do not want you to remember that once the land chose who walked it. There is a story, rarely told, whispered by the descendants of the Awori chiefs. In the 1960s, a developer arrived at Isale Eko, heart of old Lagos. He wanted to build a shopping complex. The land was cleared, ancient woods removed, but just before digging began, a worker's shovel struck something hard, a sealed calabash buried in red cloth. They opened it, and days later, 4 workers died. Not mysterious, not superstitious, real. Because you see, Lagos is not passive. She remembers. Whenever her memory is violated, she speaks. In certain parts of Lagos, you still find elder women who, when caught in joy or sorrow, cry out, "Iko onibaje," Lagos will not spoil. They say it not as a hope, but as a prayer, because they know, beneath the concrete and glass, in the shadow of Echo Atlantic, there are spirits watching, waiting. Justice may not come in court, but it comes in ways we do not expect. Because here's what they never told you. The lie of no man's land wasn't born in Lagos.
It was crafted in European chancelleries, in colonial papers where entire cities were marked terra nullius, empty land, to justify taking it. It worked in Australia, it worked in America, and it worked in Lagos. But read the Ifa, trace the bloodlines, look beneath the foundations, and you'll find Olofin's raft still resting beneath the waves. The truth is, Lagos did not forget who first walked her shores. We did, and that is where the curse began. They say Lagos belongs to no one, but ask the Lagoon at midnight, and you might hear whose name she whispers. If this story touched something ancient inside you, leave a comment. Every memory matters. Every voice helps uncover what was lost. Subscribe to Voices of the Forgotten and help us bring Africa's hidden truths back into the light.